And we are live.
And we are
gentlemen.
had to.
Steve, how you doing, man? You down there looking like you're up to no good, bro.
You know, me and Joe D just sitting here in the office. He's got the phones going here. He's got offers for Sadiq on one line. He's got offers for Bojan on the other. I keep telling him he's not the GM of the team anymore, but he's not listening to me. So
Listen, man, he's just figuring out. He's calling and he's saying, "Listen, I know this Victor, wind and fire guy is pretty great, but tell me, where can I find my next great Serbian prospect?"
But if you look on the desk, look, he's got 3 cups of coffee. He's got 2 of those mugs, and then he's got the one, white one. Like, man has not slept.
I'm proud of that, man.
I love that, man. I think that Joe D, that's definitely a staple. That's a fixture, man. It's awesome as well. I'm glad that Joe D gets a shout out on this show every single time. Look,
it's like I get to laugh at my pain. You know what I mean? I get to cope through this podcast, through this stream, whatever you like to call it. I don't know why I did that voice, but here we are. Guys, it is 10 o'clock. We are in what's called, we are in what we like to call weirdo hours.
303 Sports Guru. What up, dude?
By the way, just wanted to say real quick, Kool-Aid, it's good to see you. You're a madman for being live this week. I'm glad you're okay.
It's for you guys, man. I wanted to rap with y'all.
Glad you're in good health and glad you're here, brother.
I appreciate you. Hey, look, people, these 2 guys, these 2 gentlemen, among others, but I like to commend my brothers. They continue to check in. They've continued to, throughout this process. I generally suffer in silence. I want to be telling people out there what's up, but had a surgery, and before, during, after, these guys have continued to make sure I was good, man. So I definitely appreciate it. Yeah. Bashan, take it away, bro. I want somebody to talk about Killian Hayes, man.
Welcome, everybody, to Woodward Pistons Table Talk, coming at you on a Thursday night. Ready to fight, feeling all right in your sight. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure you follow all of us on all of our social media platforms. You can follow Steve at Burke Worldwide, also at Resball Pod, which you can go find, which, by the way, I was just on and had a really great time. That episode, when is that coming out, Steve?
In the next couple of days. You gave me a hard time all episode. It ended up being fantastic. Went back and forth on a bunch of different draft prospects, Pistons future, as well as those other teams that sit with us fellow Detroiters at the bottom of the NBA standings.
Yeah, we had some good debate in there. I had some fun. I even accused you of being a Jaden Ivey hater. It was a really good time.
But hey, don't say that, or Neil Ivey might come for me. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, you're in Arizona. She would have to get on the private jet. I mean, she could take the Notre Dame the Notre Dame football program stuff and just come kick your ass. But anyway, you could also
the program's top, so they travel, man.
Yeah, that is true. If only they traveled to relevant football games. You can also follow my guy Brandon at Detroit Kool-Aid, and you can follow me for now on FH Court Pod. Guys, I got a vent for a second.
Please.
Guys, I need you all to yell at Elon Musk for me real quick, because this mother I literally, so all I did yesterday, I'm on my account. I'm just in the middle of the day, I'm editing my profile, I edit my bio, as one does. And then I see my date of birth isn't on Twitter. I'm like, well, that's odd. So I add my date of birth, just broke my account. Just couldn't access it. It was like, something is wrong. Please try again. Something is wrong. Please try again. Something is wrong. Please try again. And then all of a sudden I get an email today saying it's locked. Now all of a sudden we can't even find the account on Twitter anymore. It's just gone. And so I'm trying to reach out to Twitter customer service to get my account back. It's a baby back bull, and I'm not happy about it. So I'm trying to get my account back. Hopes and prayers that I actually do, because that account was really important to me and had a lot of really significant connections. And I have literally poured a lot of time into it. So that would suck if I didn't have it anymore. But anyway, let's talk about something that we do have, guys, and that is a badass Killian Hayes, a confident Killian Hayes, a killer on the court, a point guard at the a quarterback at the point guard position. Man, that Charlotte Hornets game, even though I'm not gonna lie, I saw that on the calendar and I was like, bloody hell, this is gonna be one of the games of all time. Not one of the great ones, but it turned out to be the most fun game this season, and it turned out to probably be the best performance of Killian Hayes' career.
It was exciting. It was very exciting. And I feel like he's had games where stats might have been, certain stats might have been better and whatnot. But this was, like you said, it was one of his most complete games. It was one where this game was on him. And at the end of regulation, it should have been on him too. I tend to, go the way of Casey, but in that regard, I really, really wish he had an opportunity to take the shot at the end of the game.
It's hard to fault, it's hard to look at a guy like Bojan and complain about him taking the shot, but to your point, when you see Killian hit 2 clutch shots in a row in a couple possessions, it's just one of those things where it's like you go to the hot hand.
Yeah, I wanted it for him selfishly, just for the maturation. So when we got that look in overtime, it was really, really cool to see him go and hit those threes and see him do a lot of the things we've been talking about. The dancing, the 3 hands, the leaving the hand out there, all that stuff. The face.
Man, I love seeing the smirk. Like you can just tell. Like you can tell that that he totally flipped a switch in his head. Honestly, from that Boston game, November 9th on, Killian Hayes has been a different human being, a different player. There's just a certain point, with players where, the game just slows down for them at some point. It just, for whatever reason, it clicks. You're out there for enough, amount of time. You see enough looks and you see them enough over a certain amount of time. And it just seems like, for one, Killian is confident that he can get to his spots and that no one can stop him from getting to his spots, but also that work that he's put into his jump shot. Even if people have questions about the form or the mechanics, he's clearly confident in the jump shot. And that's really all that matters. If he's confident with it, if he can make it, that's really all I give a damn about.
How many people, bros? I'm going to ask you guys this, and I'll start with Steve and then Sean. How many people were upset that they changed his shooting form in off season?
Oh my God. Every time, anytime, the coaches talk about slightly adjusting someone's form, it goes, John Beeline's going to ruin their jump shot. And it's like, guys, you don't even know what the they're talking about.
Sean, I got stitches, bro. For real. You got to chill.
Hey,
I'm so serious, dog. I'm about to beat you, dude.
Hey, you sent the link. This is your fault, brother.
Oh my God. It hurts, but it's so hilarious, dog.
Bro, I feel so I'm fighting myself right now because it's I want to continue to be keep the energy up, keep everyone having fun. But if I do, I'm gonna murder Kool-Aid. What do I do? What? Steve, I can't win.
Dude, oh my gosh. Yo, I love the table talk. I love our crews. I love who we have on here, man. I really do.
but Killian Hayes. I saw people talking on Twitter last night, and I think there's some overcorrection. I saw someone say, so when are we going to talk about the fact that Killian's better than Ivey? And I'm like, hold on now. Let's not go there. First of all, it completely contradicts the whole point of what we were saying about Killian, where he just needed time. Ivey's literally only played he hasn't even played 30 games yet. So but even then, he's almost doubling Killian's averages at this current point. But over the last stretch, last night was 1 point off from his career high, but his career high was against the Oklahoma City Thunder last year, right? This was a game that actually had consequence, that actually meant something, that they were actually really going out and trying to win. like the Thunder game was against a ton of G League guys. Let's be honest. Like Killian, it was a game that was set up for Killian to go out there and succeed. This was a game that Killian took and made his own. And the impressive thing is it isn't just the scoring. It's the passing. It's the, it's the things he's doing on the defensive end. It's the rebounds. Like he's all over the court. So like, it's just been impressive. What up, Chris? Hope you're well, brother. Thank you for being in the chat, Woodward Sports family. But Kool-Aid, we've been talking about the confidence thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But like, even like James Edwards III, he wrote an article saying it's time to stop being surprised about this. And I think we are at the point now where this is the sample size. Like what we saw at the beginning of the season is now the minority. Like the majority of this season, this has been Killian.
Yep. The majority of this season, and then that little, that stretch to end last season, this is more of who he is. What we saw, he beefed up, this summer, he got a little bit more bulk. We saw him, in the gym, not just kind of doing paraway stuff. He was actually in there getting it in. Then we saw him wear Rico Hines. He put in a summer full of work because this was the first summer he got to put in a full summer's worth of work. And now we're starting to really, really see it pay off. Some of the points here, he started off slow because his role changed. His shot attempts dropped. His shot types changed. They tried to start the season off with a system that just didn't cater to Killian Hayes. In the preseason, when everybody was excited about what we were seeing out of Killian Hayes, it was because he was getting the same amount of field goal attempts and getting to be able to pick any shot on the court that he wanted as Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. Go back and look at the field goal attempts from there, and then look at what happened to Killian as soon as the season started. They kind of relished, put him back in that kind of bench role, just kind of manage this. Marvin Bagley was gone as well, which means he has no pick and roll help, not at all. Mm-hmm. Killian is a pick and roll type of a guard. When he's confident, he can toss anybody in the league. But he's a pick and roll guard, and it's been that way since you look at his French tapes and all that type of stuff too. So, those factors kind of hurt. Now, when Cade got injured, but we also got the bigs back, that presented an opportunity for Killian. And many people don't get an opportunity to start a second time once they've lost it, especially this kind of early. He's going into year 3. He's absolutely taking this opportunity by the horns, and he is not letting it go, man. And honestly, I'm kind of proud because Sean and Steve, we've all been asked this question on different platforms. I know, Sean, you've been asked this by Adam too about Killian Hayes. Is he a bust? Is it time to get rid of him? Is it time to trade him? Is it this? Is it that? And I've always said, look, it has nothing to do with his skill. He's put long sample sizes together against varying players. Oddly, he has good games against some of the better guards in the league. This was all about up here. And if he could figure this out, if he could understand, sometimes you hear guard and you think small. It's like, Killian, you're 6'5", bro. You're 6'5". Like, it's like he's now starting to understand, I can actually play basketball. Yes, you can, bro. Go out there. You got the full year now, the full off season now, go out there and just do work. And that's what I'm happy to see. It's like he's out of his own way. Now we just got to see who he is when they get, Cade back. Is he diminutive, or is he continuing to play his role within his space?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, for one, I think to your point, part of the struggle too at the beginning of the season was how much pressure there was on his shoulders to be the primary creator and to carry that second unit, when we saw just how deprived that second unit was and how much the loss of and not having Alec Burks really hurt that unit, right? And even having the emergence of Kevin Knox is something that second unit badly needed too, because there just wasn't guys that were hitting shots. So when it was all on Killian, he was going out there just trying to create on his own. It just wasn't working out the greatest. But ever since November 9th, he's been averaging 12 points a game, one and a half steals, 6.4 assists, 3.5 rebounds, 39% from 3. Even if he averages, even if let's say he's a sixth man and he averages 13 points, 6 assists, comes off the bench, plays really good defense, is that not extremely valuable? Is that not one of the best backup point guards in the league? And
yes.
Also with the fact that they can, like with the fact that he can actually make shots now, with the fact that you can actually rely on him to put the ball in the basket if you need him to, that allows Detroit to experiment more with those 3-guard lineups that they talked about, next season, in the event that, that's still the 3 guards that they have, in the event that there's not a whole, like, Steve and I went to a lot of different scenarios today. So my head is just like on, like, I don't know what the hell can happen. But, ultimately, like, that is something that, if they do choose to, like, play with, that, like, could actually be really tantalizing, like, especially with all of their length, their athleticism, all their abilities to create. And, if Cade and Ivey become better jump shooters too, like, that's like a lineup that Detroit could, like, consistently rely on.
Yep. I cannot wait to see the 3-guard lineup, bro. I really can't. Look, I'm not for Cade starting as the 3, but I am all for seeing these 3 guys just in an all, hey, whoever gets the ball, start the 3-man weave. That I really can't wait to see that. I
feel like that's like where we're getting to, like, positionless basketball too. Like, imagine like the lineup where imagine you just throw out a lineup where it's Cade, Ivey, Killian, Beef Stew, Duren, and that's your 5. And you throw, Beef Stew at that power forward position, which, by the way, another guy who's been killing it and playing really good basketball. Like I just been thinking of late, like, the basketball player that Isaiah Stewart is now versus the guy that, like, debuted, like, back in 2020, who was just like the high energy big, who just was being productive solely off of his effort. Like, now he's a legitimately skilled big.
Bro, that Hornets game, yes, he's a legitimately skilled big. He's stepping out and he's hitting that 3. I heard the Hornets announcers was just like, dang, it's just money now. Like, by like the second or third 3, they were like, yeah, that's dropping. But he's not sacrificing the aggression, bro. Like, he's dunking on people. He dunked on people in ways I did not think Stu really had in him like that. I know he's aggressive. I know he gets up. Sometimes, his hands don't allow him to really palm the ball, but that dunk that he had over 2 people, you know what I mean? I'm just like, yo, these guys, the whole squad last night just seemed to play a little bit more mean. And that's what I was looking to see out of them. I thought that they had the type of players to be able to do that, but they just seemed like they were focusing on trying to play the right defense rather than just going out there and strapping up. Sometimes you just say, you know what, guys, get your man, play the way the type of defense you know how to play, and just go to work. But when sometimes you're being taught like how to play, because you're a new team coming together, you're young players, you're being taught not just how to play defense, but why you need to play defense these types of ways. It's different when you're going from college to NBA and all that. Those types of things get in your head. They can get in your way. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be in this spot. Sometimes you're just supposed to play the player. You know what I mean? As these guys have gotten more comfortable, further away from the education of it all, because Casey said it. He said, no, right now the preseason has been an extension of training camp. It's been an extension of just learning. And then he said what the regular season, the first couple games, he said was like an extension of practice. So now I see these guys just being able to kind of play more off of their instinct and less off of trying to be, in the right spot wherever the play says that they're supposed to play. And I'm seeing it's a totally different level of aggression. I'm seeing them really getting into the passing lanes. And you want to see it more consistently. It's not like they're stringing together long wins, but at least in that Hornets game, I saw a different level of aggression from all the guys, chiefly Stewart, that I want to see going forward. Like, I hope they don't just come out next game and they fall flat or something like that. I want to see them continue to come out and be super aggressive defensively and at attacking the basket.
If the Pistons can find a way to have Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren continue to combine for 5 blocks and 30 rebounds in a game and not give up over 130 points, they're going to win a lot of basketball games.
And not give
if they just give up like 20 to 30 less points a game, they are in a prime position. Because listen, they were hitting some shots that was like, Lord, which, by the way, I know we're talking about like how great Killian was, how awesome Beef Stew was, and like these young players and what they've done. Alec Burks is a bona fide bucket. That man just wakes up, brushes his teeth, gets a bucket, goes to bed, rinse, repeat. He doesn't know anything else other than the ball going through the net. It's insane. Like literally, like it's one of those things where you could just tell in overtime, like Ivey just didn't have it at that point. Like they just needed to make an adjustment, and they brought in Burks, and just immediately the game was flipped in Detroit's favor. It was just boom, nothing Charlotte could do.
Burks is crazy, man. It's like, is water wet? I don't know, but Burks' jumper is, bro. It just is. He creates. It's just I don't, bro. And it's like when we sat here and said, let's wait for Burks, let's wait for Knox. We were told, I had literally heard from some people, can we say sources, that these guys were going to have a little bit of a breakout here in Detroit. That the New York situation was toxic. It was bad for them. That Knox was actually looking forward to having a new opportunity. And I thought we would get something out of these guys, but not to this degree. What does Troy Weaver know that we don't know? And it does make you kind of sit back and wonder, what if they had their full squad? What if they were able to be healthy this year? Troy Weaver said at the beginning of the year, he wanted to win. He said, this is the year now that we have our full complement of players, and that now effectively, I don't want to say he didn't say he was going to hold Casey responsible, but he said now Casey has what he needs to win. That was the Troy Weaver quotes to start this season.
Yeah.
When everything got injured, I'm glad that people like Alec Burks didn't decide to just fold it up. I'm glad that these guys are saying, you know what, let's actually try and fight. And for Killian Hayes, I wanted to say this earlier, man. You want to know how to really tell where this guy's confidence is at is when LaMelo Ball is coming back and Killian Hayes is like, no, it's not going to be LaMelo Ball's night. I mean, he came out really, really, really doing well. Really doing well. So I wanted to just say earlier that I commend Killian Hayes on stepping up to that challenge. Drafted in the same class. What were they first two guards taken? I forget that year. I think they were the first two guards taken that year.
Yep, they were.
Yeah. So I applaud him, man,
well,
for really, really
if you don't count Anthony Edwards, but I mean, like he's like a combo guard. He's
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a Timberwolf, so he doesn't really count.
Minnesota.
They suck.
Minnesota. But look, I wanted to bring this up, and we're gonna get to Jalen Duren eventually because I want Steve to just be able to. He's been clamoring for Jalen Duren to start since forever ago.
Preseason.
Yeah.
Literally preseason.
All he has to do is just he's a bobblehead right now. That's it. Because he's telling the truth. We got the receipts. But I wanted to be able to talk about Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey and Bennedict Mathurin. The reason why is because I've heard a lot of rumblings, and I saw our chats had already started it off with it as well. I like Mathurin. He was who I wanted if the Pistons didn't get Jaden Ivey. And Steve, you wanted Jaden Ivey too, didn't you? You want to tell the people where you are?
No, I did not.
Where are you at right now, bro?
Well, I work for the University of Arizona. I live in Tucson. I am not affiliated with the basketball program here, but they are the team that I see the most. So I have a little bit more insight into the players there. So yeah, Mathurin was my guy. And even before working here as a freshman, Mathurin was what we call in the draft world pre-draft of like, you see this player has talent and you want to jump on them and draft them before they have their breakout. A lot of people were saying as a freshman for Mathurin, like the Knicks had 2 picks that year in the second half of the first round. And a lot of people were saying they need to get to this kid and say, hey, we're going to pick you one of these picks. I don't know if Mathurin just said, I'm going to come back and try and like win more games, try and win a title because the team was that good. Or if he just was like, you know what, I can go higher. Obviously it paid off. But even as a freshman, people were saying 6'7", around 200 pounds. Look at the athleticism. The shooting ability is for real. The ball handling seems to be coming along. Profiled as a Canadian guy that played for the national team too and kind of led that FIBA team in the summer in between. There were just a lot of positive indicators with Bennedict Mathurin that had upside just as much as Jaden Ivey, in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people really bought into that side of things. Defensive versatility, just being taller and a little bit more lankier than Jaden Ivey is, it is what it is, and just showed a little bit more man-to-man defense there. It's just hard because, again, it's what, 30 games in for both of them. Like, come on now. Even for somebody like me who loves Bennedict Mathurin, it's my guy. This is where I live and breathe, and always going to support my team here. You can't. My draft philosophy, in terms of like labeling who's successful and who's a bust, I think of 4 guys: Chauncey Billups, Tyson Chandler, OJ Mayo, Tyreek Evans. How can you label these guys busts, or how can you label these guys successes within like the first couple years of their career? And even looking back, like saying who's a bust, who is a success, you can, it's not that easy, right?
Right. Well, and like here's like the thing that like confuses me about like the discourse in the community, or like people talking about it. It's like we're talking about like Bennedict Mathurin is having this like unworldly better season than Ivey, but like if you actually like first of all, if you look at the numbers, like they're like within like 2 points a game of each other. Ivey averages more rebounds, more assists, more steals, more blocks. They're like within 2% in field goal percentage. They're within 6% on 3-point percentage. Like they're not like as far off as like people make them out to be. Obviously, the Pacers are winning more games, and he's playing really well alongside Tyrese Halliburton. And listen, Bennedict Mathurin is a dog. He's an absolutely great player. I think I think kind of like what I thought of Mathurin, and I think kind of like what a lot of our discussion was about Mathurin, was that he was going to be ready to go like day one. Like he was a guy that like was just made like NBA ready. That if you're drafting Bennedict Mathurin, at the very least, you're getting a good starter for a long time. You know what I mean? And like, I think with Ivey, it's always been, the conversation of what he can be and like where his game can go, and like with his athleticism, like where he can take it. And like, obviously there's aspects of his game where he has been really good. I mean, he's leading his class in assists. He's doing things pretty well. He's, really good in isolation. Like when he can cut to the basket and blow by defenders, he's great. Obviously there's too many times where he ends up on the court. And I think there's, he just has to learn when he can pick his spots and actually challenge versus when he needs to defer. And obviously he needs to have a little bit better, shot selection, needs to turn the ball over less. Like he's a young guard, but like, I think often as Pistons fans, we see guys that we pass on that are playing really well, and we just get this knot in our stomach and this reflex of, did we just mess this up again?
Flashbacks of like Brandon Knight over Kemba Walker, Luke Kennard over OG Anunoby and Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, obviously, absolutely. Stanley Johnson over Devin Booker.
Right. And it's like, and not to make excuses for Ivey, because it's like, obviously he's going through a slump right now, but it's like, it's after he came back off of missing a few games due to injury. It's not entirely surprising that, he's thrown off his rhythm. He has to get back on. And even then, if you look at the competition, since he has come back, it hasn't exactly been against a ton of last place teams outside of the Hornets. So, I think he'll be fine. I think, I'm curious to see, what the rest of the season will hold. I think having not having Cade there hurts Ivey in the sense that like the defensive attention shifts to him significantly more. And so I'm just curious to see how they both develop over time. But listen, I think they're both going to be great players. I think both Indiana and Detroit would be happy with who they selected.
Yeah, I think they're both fine players, good players. Mathurin was my kind of 1B. If Ivey wasn't there for the Pistons, I thought that his 3-point shooting, his scoring, and we covered this in our pre-draft coverage. And I know, Steve, we had you on to actually talk about Mathurin, I believe. We talked about like he was ready to go out there. His game was already molded to score the way NBA players score. Not that Ivey wouldn't be able to score, but it was going to be more or less like, getting to the free throw line, knocking down your open shots, and if you can speed past people and getting into transition before he can actually start getting into more like the ISO stuff. I've actually been a little bit more pleased with Ivey in the isolation game than I initially thought coming into the season. But I feel like Ivey, if you honestly, I don't know what we consider a slump. When you look at the last 10 games for both Bennedict Mathurin and Jaden Ivey, Bennedict Mathurin is the one that's actually in a slump. You know, his 3-point shooting is tremendously down. His field goal percentage is tremendously down. His assists are down. These things are all down. Whereas Jaden Ivey, his scoring is down, but just slightly from the 17 he was at to start the season, just slightly. Whereas everything else in terms of the all-around play continues to be up, you know, at the 4 assists, the 4 rebounds, like some of the stats that you mentioned earlier. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of just bring up or have the conversation about the two players. Not that either team made a mistake or anything of that nature. I think that they're just different types of players. I think they're two different styles of players. I believe the Pistons like what Jaden Ivey represents. And honestly, Jaden Ivey, to me, people assume that Bennedict Mathurin's height is going to make the difference. But I actually think that Jaden Ivey has more to him as it relates to physicality than Bennedict Mathurin does on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. And the stats show that from all of the defensive metrics. You look at any advanced defensive metric, Jaden Ivey is beating Bennedict Mathurin. And so I'm a little bit ashamed with the Detroit Pistons fans here. Look, Steve, you get a pass because you're in Arizona. But Detroit Pistons fans, I get what there could be to like about Mathurin. But what's actually been put on film, what's actually in the stats, shame on y'all. This is about defense first. Did anybody ask who actually is affecting defense a little bit better right now? Did anybody think that? Or is it about the 2 points per game? Because if you want to talk about what each player points responsible for right now, Ivey has continued to lead Bennedict Mathurin in that race all season. 23, 24 points a game versus 21 points per game for Mathurin. That these things matter. It's like, you know, we see a guy score, and I think it's great. But how is he impacting the game when he's off? And if you look at Mathurin's last 10 games, he's not doing too much if he's not scoring. Not passing the ball, he's not rebounding well. It's a tough time, and that's the type of player we don't need right now. I think that the pick of Cade and the pick of Ivey was about getting two players who could be all-around type team guys. So whether they are scoring or not, you know you can depend on them to go and get you rebounds, to go and get you foul shots, to go and get you assists, to go and get their teammates involved, to go and play the passing lane and things of that nature. You know, they're different styles of play. But that's what I started to notice. Now that you got a guy like Cade, now that you got a guy like Ivey, now I can see the Pistons like in this next draft coming up. And Steve, I want to get you on to be able to talk about who is the gunner. I think this is the appropriate draft for the Pistons to be able to look at somebody with a similar skill set to Mathurin, because I think you can find that skill set more readily available than you can find a player like Jaden Ivey. I don't think you just find the Jaden Ivey type players. I think you can find the shooting guards that come in and can shoot the three, play a little ISO ball. You find those guys in the draft, man. You find those guys in free agency. To me personally, I don't see, and it's me. I look at Jaden Ivey as more D-Wade-esque. He has to get better in that mid-range. He got to get his footwork right and all that, but you don't find him. I know you're gonna disagree.
He hates Ivey so much.
I think it's a moot point to like trying to have this conversation. It's why I don't engage with it on Twitter, because you're right. They are both going to be solid. I think there's a lot of indicators that they're going to be good, but they're both different kinds of players. I think it's just easier to look at Mathurin and be like, he's not going to get in Cade's way. Not to say that Ivey is getting in Cade's way, right? But the way that he's going to reach his full potential is to have the ball in his hands more, right? Whereas Mathurin, you don't need that. The other thing I think that gets lost in the shuffle is who has a better free throw attempt rate right now?
Mathurin does.
Yep. 40%.
But Ivey is not getting the whistle he should be getting, just like Cade wasn't. The Pistons are getting hosed in that department. If you watch the game, you know Ivey's getting hosed in that department.
He's not helping himself out either. He's not helping himself out either. That's the main thing, I think, which is another thing that factors into with the fans, which I don't want to get into because it could be a young guy thing. And Bojan complains maybe more than anybody else. Right? Like, seriously. So these are things that are like moot point. Is why I don't like engaging with it, because I like Mathurin. I don't think Ivey's bad. It's hard because people are just seeing the Mathurin fit better, and also that he's playing very well.
Bro, Bojan is like, with complaining, who was the previous complainer? Like, I know Rasheed got text, but he didn't really complain. Oh, was it Tayshaun? Tayshaun after every play was like these. That's like Sean is killing me.
Rasheed didn't complain.
Not as much as Tayshaun after every play. Not bro.
Yeah, she just
Tayshaun-
spoke the truth, man. She just spoke the truth. Ball don't lie. Come on now.
Tayshaun after every play. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I swear after every play, Tayshaun would be like this. If he missed the shot, it was like this.
Tayshaun would definitely do the like he definitely did a whole lot of that, but she
talked after every play, but I ain't seen him going after
he was just flapping his gums at all times. Like it was never it was never stopping. Like he was chirping to the refs, like whether it was about a foul or not. Like he's just like he's pre-gaming. He's just like over.
Man, I had a large fry for lunch. like dang, chill, everything don't gotta be so aggressive.
Yeah, if you go look on YouTube, there's a video called by Secret Base. It's like Rasheed Wallace versus the refs, and it tracks like his whole career of the refs hating him and him hating the refs.
It's so good. It's so
Steve
good.
is the reason why I'm getting no sleep tonight, huh?
Yeah.
I'm about to be watching Rasheed Wallace getting on these refs' cases.
Yeah. What I will say though is, if healthy, neither Mathurin nor Ivey are going to be the ones that are going to win Rookie of the Year at the end of the day. It's going to be Paolo, because if Paolo's healthy, he's the best rookie by far. He's, he's a man amongst boys. He is a freaking colossal giant that, he's got like, it's kind of interesting. He's kind of got like that, like Blake Griffin, like young explosion and athleticism, with that Carmelo type of offensive instinct and touch. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a really cool combination. And when you talk about, him and Franz Wagner and whatever the heck Markelle Fultz ends up being, and, like they have some pieces, man. And then like, I personally,
man,
what's that?
Balling out for them, man. They could run some strange 4-5s with him and Paulo.
Yeah, bull, and then everyone blames Troy Weaver for not pulling off the trade, but they forget that they literally found that he had to get a season-ending surgery. There was like a fracture that they needed to repair. So like people forget that, but anyway, yeah, man. Like I personally like it would be really interesting to see like a guy like a Scoot Henderson end up in Orlando with Paolo. That would be I'd get the popcorn out for that.
You said in Detroit?
No, in Orlando. Wembanyama.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, then yes. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Sean.
Yeah, the Wemby way is heading to Detroit. You know what I mean?
You're right. I'm sorry.
Listen, I saw a picture of him wearing buffs, so like he's practically already got his apartment like purchased and like ready to go. So
is this just a coordination? We had like a French reporter come out, right, to Woodward Sports today, and then the Pistons are playing a game in France, right? Is this just the coordination leading up to, Sick for Vic for the Pistons? Trademark Rod Beard, Sick for Vic.
You think he's going to be front row, and we're just going to be like, like handing him like flowers or like going up like
it's
the
game coordination. He already knows.
Victor, like
he already knows. He probably doesn't even call it Detroit. He probably just calls it Detroit. He already knows. Listen, the French reporter that came here today, man, his last name is Grashit. I was like, yo, this is pretty cool.
When is the Paris game?
It's in January, isn't it? It's January. I forget what date. I know it's in January.
Yeah.
Are we playing Chicago?
Yes, sir.
Sick.
Brother. The city of love, right?
Man, the city of love and dog shit basketball. Holy cow. Chicago needs to blow it up.
Bro, Andre Drummond versus Jalen Duren? I'm here for that. I'm all here for that. I want to see Jalen Duren own. I really do. And you guys have seen me.
Oh, he will.
Andre Drummond, I love him, but I really want to see that now. I really do. Sean, it's at least a little bit something to look at.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, he's going to own him mentally. The first matchups, we get the first matchup in a week and a half. December, 2 weeks from tomorrow, December 30th in Chicago, we get Andre versus Jalen Duren.
I want to see this actually, man.
Dude,
I
Duren's
really
gonna
do.
have real estate in Drummond's head. It's gonna be quick. It's not even gonna take long. Like Drummond's gonna see him because like he's wearing 0. He's taking my spot. And Duren's like, yeah, I am. I'm better than you. Like, I am. Oh my gosh.
I'm better than you.
We're just listen, like I said, if we're going live after 10, this is crazy hours. Okay. This is I warned you.
No, I love it. It just clicked in my mind. It was just like, yo, I actually want to see that matchup. I do, because I believe Andre Drummond is going to try and come out and play tough. I don't think that there's any aspect of Drummond that's going to come out here and say, let me just, take the night off tonight. Hey,
You don't think any aspect of Drummond will say I'm gonna just take the night off?
not that night. Not that night. That night, I
it's
believe,
at least in the back of it. I mean, he knows the options available. It's at least in the back of his head.
he
Like,
can't do it
he
that
knows
night.
it's there. He did it the game
Look.
before. Like, he knows it's a possibility. Like,
I want the best of Andre Drummond that night, and I want to see Jalen Duren go out there and absolutely just mollywop, bro. Just
Whenever
take
you
Terry
a-
Foster's word. Like,
whenever
I
you
really
ask-
do.
whenever you ask for the best of Drummond, you often get disappointed. Don't you remember?
leave my dude alone, bro. Shout out to Carl, bro. Shout out to Carl, Table Talk member. Shout out to Lexi as well. Our Table Talk members.
Gotta give love to the crew. Man, it's 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 one of those things where I'm not sure about you guys, but like, it's it's hard to look for like, like those things to like those storylines to look for the season. Obviously, it's about the development. It's guys taking next steps. It's guys continue to play better and like guys continuing to compete. But like as as you're like watching this team now, like now that we know that Cade isn't coming back, now that we know that like that there's some trade rumors around, whether it's about guys like Bojan, whether it's like guys like Sadiq that are being floated around. We pretty much in the coming days, Nerlens Noel, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when he gets traded. Like all parties want to make that happen. So we know at least someone's getting moved. But as the season goes on, like, personally, like what are the things that you guys are looking for? Like what storylines, like what keeps you excited to tune in?
Has Jalen Duren arrived? That's it for me, man. Like we heard them start the season off by stating Casey and Troy Weaver that this was their Sean Kemp. Like that's not us making anything up or conjecturing or any of that stuff. You can look it up yourself. Casey compared him in his athleticism and when he finally gets his game around to Sean Kemp. So it's like I want to see Jalen Duren. I want to see everything that he can do as he continues to develop, because he's to me is more than a freak of nature, because he has, usually when you hear freak of nature, it's a guy who generally does not have a lot of basketball IQ or skill. But I see basketball IQ and skill. Usually it's, he's a freak of nature. He just needs to learn the game. With Jalen Duren, I'm seeing a guy who, as he just gets more and more comfortable and realizes that he's the biggest guy out there and that he can absolutely mash on everybody. Yeah, I think we're going to see a completely different player. I see a guy right now who, 19 years old, probably doesn't understand, bro. These grown men out here, it doesn't matter how old they are. Doesn't matter if they're older than you. It does not matter. Go out there and punch on them. That's what I loved about the Plumlee dunk. It was so disrespectful. The dunk and the after. He just looked at him, balled up his fist, just yelled something at him, and ran down the court. I loved that. I love that. And that's what I want to see. And what's good, bro?
So you have the Drummond matchup circled. I'll do you one better.
What's good?
In 6 days, the Detroit Pistons are heading to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and will face off against Joel Embiid. Jalen Duren will officially have his test, assuming that he will be available and ready to play against one of, if not the best big in the NBA. A guy in particular that stated on television, I have real estate in Andre Drummond's head. Like we saw that is a thing that plagued our former franchise center's career, right? Let's see how Jalen Duren stands up to the contest, how he deals with the physicality, how he deals with the isolation, his footwork, everything that he has, because like Joel Embiid is really good at drawing fouls. He's really good at manipulating contact. He's really good at, at scoring. So I'm interested to see how Duren responds to that, because he's going to have to stay disciplined in order to be able to stay on the court.
That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a good matchup. Obviously, you want to see Jalen Duren be tested and be pushed. I said this on the Woodward Pistons podcast. We came into the season. Some people were wondering on draft night, is it going to be the G League? Then some people said, is he going to be on the regular roster? Is he going to be able to come off the bench? Is he in a regular rotation? Can he start? Now that we know he can start, is he just one of those guys that can kind of rebound and get some putbacks, or is he a guy that can hit the mid-range, hit some more turnarounds? Is he a guy who, what is his defense? Because when you get to the playoffs, guess what? You're going up against guys that sometimes you might have to go one-on-one against a big, or go one-on-one against a versatile big. Is Jalen Duren one of those guys that can stand up against Giannis maybe?
Yeah, if you want your best shot to beat Philly, you have to be able to guard Embiid one-on-one. You have to be able to stay in front of a one-on-one, because
who you going to run into in the playoffs? You're going to run into those types of teams in the playoffs. So
and Joel Embiid right now averaging 33 points, shooting 54% from the field. Like this is a Hakeem Olajuwon-esque big that's like that's at the apex of his powers right now. So like I'm excited to see, obviously that's going to be one that I'm assuming it's going to be a game where it's going to be a learning experience. I'm assuming Embiid's going to be able to go out and get his. That's just who he is. But that's like talking about like unprecedented, like those are insane numbers. And so when looking at upcoming matchups and like potential storylines, like things to look out for, to your point of, is Jalen Duren like a guy where this will be, in my opinion, the litmus test of where he's at, where he has to go.
And that comes before the Andre Drummond game. Andre Drummond is about to get, oh my gosh. Can you imagine that? This is almost like this is like Goku fighting Vegeta, and then he got to go fight somebody weak, go spar with Krillin or somebody.
Yeah, it's like Goku's fighting Vegeta, and then he's going to fight Danny DeVito. Hey, Goku!
For the people who don't know, I got stitches, man. I'll tell you guys about this one day. Sean is trying to bust them. Stop. Dog. But that's gonna be a fun one. I want to look at I like what Kenny said. I think he should study Embiid's game for several different reasons. I think that their styles of play are a little bit different, but there's some wiggle to Embiid's game that I wish Jalen Duren did have. In the post, you see it. You see when he does his little shimmy and that turnaround. He tried to do the hook a couple times. He worked on that, But the mid-range, that's what I want to see him take more. I feel like I've seen him hit it a couple times this season, and then he just doesn't take it anymore.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see Jalen Duren have a Kevin Garnett type of disposition on the offensive end. Attacking the glass, dominating, being a force in the paint, being able to operate in the mid-range, being a pick and roll. It's like you don't need your big in order to be like this amazing scoring guy, to be like Embiid, who can score at all three levels. If you can get a guy that can just score it too, if he can literally just score in the mid range and be a threat around the rim, that is a monster, especially with the rebounding he has. That's the thing, is he clearly, the one thing that he has to figure out is how to score at this level. If he can do that, if he could just figure out how to do that on a semi-consistent basis, we got a freaking guy here, man. I don't see across the league, there isn't a athlete, there isn't a center that I look at that that has that type of frame and athleticism at that age. Good Lord, dude.
The Hornets reporters were saying it last night during that game. The play when Duren, what was it? Bogey called for the pick and roll, coming from the right side of the court to the left side of the court. Duren came up and set the pick. And then just kind of rolled middle, caught the ball. It looked like he was about to pass. One dribble and took off from like the dotted half circle line. Bro, what? I'm like, if you could do that all the time, then why are you not doing that all the time? I went on and I posted that clip of the Hulk just absolutely smashing low key. I was like, this is how I want to see him dunk the ball all the time. Like, that's what he needs to do. And that's that school of Rasheed Wallace. That one year that Andre Drummond was grateful to have Rasheed Wallace as an assistant coach, we saw those types of dunks out of Andre Drummond. We saw and we heard Andre Drummond say, no, she told me to dunk everything. He told me, stop trying to do layups, stop trying to be pretty, stop the finger roll, stop the this, stop the that. Go up like you're trying to put somebody in the rim. And so I agree with what Chuck is saying. I'm going to continue to say that my biggest if there's any criticism that I'm going to have about Jalen Duren, it's going to be put people in the rim, put them through the backboard, take the rim off the backboard, bring the rim down. Like that's what I want to see out of Jalen Duren. The same way that Shaq came into the league and he said his pops told him, take the rim off the backboard. I want you to play that aggressively. If Jalen Duren has that ability, go out there and do it. The Hornets announcers, they continue to say too, they said several times that they don't think Duren knows how big and strong and athletic he really is. They say it looks like he looks surprised sometimes when he gets up for those rebounds. So I just want to see him go out there and just Hulk smash, man, straight up.
It's a similar thing to Killian where he has to understand what he's capable of. And by the way, I just want to point out, if you look on the other side, because just a reminder for those that might not remember, Jalen Duren was originally a Charlotte Hornet. Charlotte had him for 20 minutes and then ultimately decided to trade him for a first-round pick and then draft another center whose name is Mark Williams. Would you like to hear how Mark Williams has played this year, Kool-Aid?
Wait, so you tell me they did this again? They gave up another future like all-star for here. Tell me.
He has appeared in 3 games.
Riveting.
He has played a total of 13 minutes.
Ooh.
He has a total of 11 points and 8 rebounds. That's not his averages. Those are his totals. So obviously he is dealing with a injury at this current time. However, I don't think he's quite the athlete that Jalen Duren is, and I think this was a catastrophic decision by the Charlotte Hornets yet again.
Oh my goodness, who's the guy? What's his name?
Mark Williams. He played at Duke. He played at Duke last year.
Okay. That's crazy that I know him more from college than when you say Duke, I'm like, okay, yeah, that guy. But it's just like, goodness gracious, man, why would they do that?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I don't know. They thought they were getting someone comparable, and they were way wrong.
Steve, do you have anything on this one? Anything as to what you think that they might have been thinking?
We talked about it today on the pod, Res Ball, so go look out for that one when it drops. And it was more like maybe they didn't buy into Jalen Duren's quote-unquote upside and being a limited player. I mean, that was one of the things that a lot of people talked about is, I don't know, is he going to just be a drop big? Some people didn't buy into the switchability. You could see flashes of it. They didn't do that a lot. He also did not set screens at Memphis, which I'm sure a lot of pick and roll heavy teams would have passed on him for that reason. He's still kind of learning it there. And the post game is, I don't want to say it's non-existent, but the big thing on Jalen Duren the season before he went into college was a lot of people said he kind of falls in love with the jump shot a little bit too much. And just like what you guys had said before, that's continued to carry over. She did indeed coach him there as part of the assistants in Memphis. So hopefully he got in his ear a little bit more. But I think it was just that of like the offensive game is really not like it's far behind somebody like a Mark Williams. The other thing is Mark Williams is 7 feet, and I believe he had the longest wingspan ever measured at the combine. It was gigantic. So maybe they just fell in love with that. The Hornets also are notorious for selecting like guys that have been in college a little bit longer, right? PJ Washington, Kemba Walker, and then Mark Williams. LaMelo is really kind of the outlier in there of them finally taking a home run swing on somebody that doesn't have quote unquote tangible production you can see in numbers. So I think that might have been part of it. I mean, even us, every draft person was like, this is the stupidest thing. Any draft expert that mocked the Hornets, they said they need a center, and everybody was like, Jalen Duren, all he can do is catch lobs from him and LaMelo. I don't know if he's going to do anything else, but the one thing he's going to do is just be that easy lob catcher for LaMelo. This is a no-brainer.
But
apparently, it isn't a no-brainer.
But okay, but for a player like LaMelo, a guy like Jalen Duren, if all he's doing is catching lobs and getting blocks and switching, 1-5 pick and rolls and all that, what are they talking about?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All Marvin Bagley was a lob threat for Cade Cunningham, and they almost went 500 in those games after post All-Star break. What are they talking about?
I mean, this is what happens when you place too much faith in numbers and like measurables, quote unquote, I think, and not enough in like seeing the raw potential in people.
That's because, look, when we did this draft breakdown, I remember we talked about Jalen Duren. We said a lot of the same things you just said. Can he run the pick and roll? Can he do go in the post? It looked like he was kind of on offense, no plays or run for him, like specifically. So when he got the ball, it was just kind of, you just do what you do. Either put back or look at the rim and shoot, or, and I saw that. And when I was going through some footage and stuff, he would get almost grab a rebound, kind of dribble off the lips on the pass.
Yeah, and you know why that was? Is they didn't have a point guard for half the season. I mean, Alex Lomax kind of came in from the back half of it. Amani Bates was there. Then we were trying to get him to be the point guard to be more, and it ruined somebody like Duren. But Duren, even though like there really didn't seem like there were that many plays for him, I've said this a million times, led the team there in Memphis in points, in rebounds, in field goal attempts, in blocks, and in free throw attempts. I don't know why enough people didn't look into that and be like, oh, maybe this guy's not a limited player, because look at all these things he led the team in as a freshman who reclassified, who should have been in high school.
You know what? Andre Drummond, he didn't really do that because he was a freshman, kind of in a similar type of a system, didn't have his coach, but he didn't necessarily do, just in my opinion, as well as Jalen Duren did. When Drummond was coming out, he had the measurables and he had the athleticism, but the questions that were coming out around him, they didn't have anything to do with, if he had skill. It was like, there's questions around his motor, which, to people's point, like Sean's and others who have seen Drummond kind of play, and they've come to this conclusion as well. It kind of played itself out that way. But with Jalen Duren, I didn't hear people really questioning his motor. They were just wondering if his skill set was something that was up to NBA level, or if he was just forever going to be, a lob threat and a rebounder, maybe get a block every now and then. When Casey and Troy got him and we saw how happy they were, it was just like, why y'all so happy? And they're like, hey, Sean Kemp, y'all tripping. You know what I'm saying? Like, what in the world? Do you know who Sean Kemp is? And now we're sitting here like, this guy is really, really nice. Really nice.
And it's just, you look back at and it's like, again, I don't want to do the hindsight drafting thing, because it's like, but when it's just, like, even at the time, just
I was gonna say, I don't think this is even hindsight drafting. This is one of those, like, people in the comments, they think Apollo said it too. Like, what are you doing?
Like, when you have a guy that can jump out the gym like that, like when I saw Jalen Duren play for the first time, it didn't take me long. Like, Kool-Aid, like, you could tell, like, I just told you, like, during that game when, like, there was like a dunk, like, I just remember just looking at him like, like I've seen Shaq in his prime live, and Jalen Duren made my jaw drop. Like, to just say it flatly, like, this is a guy that I think it can be a special big. Special.
Yeah. When I wanted to see him pass that big man triage, he did it in such a skilled way that I realized some of these guys who pass that triage like Drummond did, they don't necessarily have skill to it. Drummond didn't really have too much skill. He didn't add too much skill in his time here in Detroit. But the way that Duren got his rebounds, the way Duren was getting his putbacks, the way Duren was setting pick and rolls and playing that pick and roll game, it was something a little bit more polished. Something a little bit like when you say you want to see that KG out of him, you see the shades out of it. You almost see like the premonition of KG. And if he gets the nasty, the only thing that's separating him, KG was nasty. That was it. He was utterly nasty, bro, on the court. He didn't care about his teammates almost, sometimes. He was just aggressive. He was just almost vengeful. I don't know why he was so mad, but I'm glad. It was great basketball. Back then, what was it? Him, Terrell Brandon, those guys?
If Duren plays with that disposition, dude, like, honestly, like, one of the best bigs of all time type ceiling. Like, that's the type of frame he has. That's the type of athleticism he has, man. Like, that's the framework he's working with.
Yeah. And Steve, you've been on the whole start Jalen Duren thing for a long time. And like I said, after I saw him do the triage, I knew this man was going to be the starting something in our front court. There are some people who are wondering, would it be better to play him at the 4 and get, either a bruiser type of a 5 or MB type of a 5, or do you just play him at the 5 and let him roam, let him take control, and then get a stretch 4 or rock with Stu, who right now that tandem looked vicious, man, vicious against the Hornets. If that's the tandem, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Being the start during, like, maybe train conductor starting in the preseason. The main thing is that lob threat for Cade. I think it was Apollo again that said in the comments about being ecstatic when the team ended up getting Duren, excuse me, because we all know Cade's favorite pass is the lob. And so I think staying at the 5 would be there. The other parts of the skill set that have been flashed, you alluded to the mid-range jumper. Like, you remember when Drummond took all those jumpers, no matter where they were, it was just like you could see the gears turning. You could see he was like in his head, set my feet, put my hands here, and then somebody would come in and mess it up, right? But Duren, it's like boom, boom. It seems like this is something that's natural. Yeah. Whether or not the coaching staff wants that to happen, we shall see. Memphis definitely did not want that to happen, and I'm sure Sheed had a lot to do with that. There on Penny's staff, but we'll see with that. But the main thing for me of why he was one of those, and normally I don't really like centers. One of the main reasons of why I kept saying, like, man, I can't really knock this guy down the board, even though centers are devalued. The passing, the short roll passing that he's been able to, display. Guys
Speak on it, bro. Speak on it.
Yeah, it's guys like Sam Vecini were like, I don't want to mention Draymond Green, but some of the things that he was able to do in terms of passing on the short roll remind me of some of the things that Draymond Green can do. And I think that is really what separate him from everybody else. Unfortunately, the Pistons yet to run a lineup that would really take advantage of that. And I mean, with Cade out, that's going to be even more difficult because you want him on that short roll with shooters in the corners, like a Sadiq and like a Bojan. I think Sadiq would be fine in a more limited, like just spot up shooter role than what they have. And Bojan's probably not going to be there yet, but maybe somebody like Kevin Knox can be in one of those corners as well. And they can try that out because, again, his passing instincts for center are not something you see every day. Hopefully the team really buys into that more and incorporates that in part of the offense as it goes down. Because Stewart can activate that as well with his 3-point shooting. Maybe he's one of the ones in the corner. And with his ability to attack closeouts now, like I know that was one of the things that has been stressed from him and what he's trying to do this year. Like just those two, whoever has the ball, you get the pick, you give it to Duren on the roll. He's able to hit Stu. Stu can give a pump fake or shoot a 3 or attack that closeout and drive like he did in Charlotte, where he pretty much eliminated Mason Plumlee. So there's a lot there to get excited about. There are not just the defense, but these other things in offense. Even if he doesn't have the jumper, I think the passing would really unlock a lot more.
Yeah.
You ever see the movie Kicking and Screaming?
One of my favorite.
Give it to the Italians, Yeah.
Give
it to the Italians. Jalen Duren is the Pistons Italian. Give it to the Italian. Let him run. Get him out there, man. Give it to the Italian.
Bro, we got to watch Kicking and Screaming in. I didn't know you were a fan, bro. I love that movie. Absolutely love that movie.
That is a deep plug. Shout out to all of you mid-2000s Will Ferrell comedy fans out there. Kicking and Screaming, starring Will Ferrell and Mike Ditka.
Yeah. Stop smoking in the house. I'm not smoking in the house. I love that movie.
We love balls.
We hockey pucks. Yo, go look at Kicking and Screaming. I love that.
Yeah. Shameless plug. We're not sponsored, but just go watch Kicking and Screaming. It's a great time.
Movie. Yo, go have a laugh. I'm
Good
not gonna
time
watch
for the friends and family.
Shoot, but my play of the game was one that I've been wanting to see this. I've really been wanting to see it. And it involves Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren. I know that Isaiah Stewart, he has a little bit of handle, man. He has some handle. There's some plays where I'm like, yo, okay. And so I wanted to see that 4 and 5 pick and roll. And they actually ran that. They ran it a couple times. And Stewart wound up getting 2 times he got a hook shot out of it. 1 time he passed it to Duren, and Duren passed it to somebody else. That, to me, dog, the defense, the 4 and 5, they look confused. They look, because a 4 and 5 are trained whenever there's a pick and roll. What do you do? You drop. But what if you got both the 4 and the 5 in the pick and roll? Both them fools was dropping sometimes.
Oh.
It was so funny. I was like, you know what? I don't know whose idea that was. We can't give Casey the credit. We can't. I don't know.
No,
whose
he's not. No,
idea that was.
Kool-Aid. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't get any credit at all. Anything
John Beeline either. Remember, we can't credit John Beeline either. Remember?
Yeah, for Killian Hayes' 3-point improvement. Yeah,
guys. No, I mean, guys. As you can clearly see, there is nothing that Dwayne Casey has done to help this team at all. Like Killian Hayes isn't developed at all. But Jaden Ivey hasn't looked comfortable one bit. Jalen Duren hasn't looked ready to start. Isaiah Stewart hasn't developed his game. Sadiq Bey hasn't made any progress as a pro. Bojan Bogdanovic didn't look seamlessly comfortable in this system as having the best season of his career in his mid-30s.
Sean, remember when we said we would like to see Jaden Ivey get to 15, 4 and 4? I was listening to some old podcast, bro. I was like, dang, this is what we were hoping he could get to. We're sitting here right now, bro, man, he's struggling at 15, 4.4 and 4. Think about that, bro. Coming into this season, we didn't even know if we were like, yo, we think we can get to 11 or 12 points per game with his skill set. This guy started off the season blazing hot, man. And the only reason why I think that his up and down is happening is because he's a rookie. Wait till this guy actually learns the ebbs and flows. Hearing Cade Cunningham speak so confidently about, I know the NBA now. I know what to expect. I know how to work my body. I know how to this. I know how to that. I know how they're gonna play defense against me. I know it was awesome. And then to actually see Cade Cunningham kind of just before the injury kind of prove, yeah, I'm still Cade Cunningham. You know what I'm saying? It was just awesome to see because it shows that he wasn't lying. He wasn't just speaking, just to speak.
It was incredible.
He was absolutely
before his injury, dude.
Absolutely incredible. And he said it. And it was at his own pace, in his own way. That's what I love about Cade Cunningham the most. And I believe that type of stuff rubs off on your teammates too. I see Killian Hayes going out there and honestly playing a similar role in a similar system. He's going out there and picking the spots, getting into the mid-range, and he's shooting the 3 confidently. He's playmaking well, and he's kind of stepped into that role seamlessly. I'm going to continue to say I hope and I believe he will keep that up when Cade gets back.
Yeah, dude, the people just don't understand how player development works. It's so selective. When a player isn't doing well, it's because of the coach. But when a player's thriving and actually making progress, they taught themselves. The coach had nothing to do with it. It's do you understand how much work Dwayne Casey and his staff have done with Isaiah Stewart? The hours, the months of time they've poured into him already, the amount that they worked with him and gave him a plan to work on throughout the summer. Do you think players just aimlessly guess on what to do in the summer? Do you think teams don't have an individualized workout plan and regimen and development strategy for each player each summer? Do you think that just doesn't happen?
Sean, let me ask you this, bro. How much money did Dwayne Casey pay LeBron James? Or what pictures does Dwayne Casey have on LeBron James? That LeBron James, all the way in a whole nother state, would just mention Dwayne Casey as one of the people who was very, very just great for his career. Why would, how much did, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan pay? What pictures does he have on him? What leverage does Casey have?
Don't forget Kevin Garnett. Don't forget Kevin Garnett, who that's one of his closest people, man, who only coached him for 1 season because Minnesota owners are idiots.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
find
what did
the
he?
article, but I'm gonna find the interview, and I posted it to Woodward before, so I'm gonna find it. But Cade Cunningham, when he said he got drafted here, he was like he was so excited to come and play for Coach Casey because of all of the other NBA players that he was able to talk to and reached out to him saying, "Bro, you're going to a great situation. You're going to a great situation. You're going to a coach that cares. You're going to a coach that knows the game. You're going to the only coach in the NBA who actually won a championship in college." He's the only active head coach right now who won as a player. He knows what he's doing. I believe that there's some aspects of his coaching that needs to be updated. I don't know if we'll really know that until this team is ready to win. He's a win now coach with the ability to develop. This is a team that's not ready to win now, but a bunch of players ready to develop. So he's showing that aspect of development, but they don't really have the pieces. And if Troy Weaver says they don't have the pieces to compete, they don't have the pieces right now because of these injuries, we have to let that matter. We can all see. We can't sit here and complain that they need better players or this or better shooting and then act as if, that's Casey's fault. But then when they do shoot well,
Kool-Aid, what about the rotations? What about the rotations, Kool-Aid?
Hey, can I jump in here too? We forget Coach Casey won as a coach in Dallas as well. You remember that 2011 finals where LeBron and the Heatles premiere, first time in the finals were ruined by Dirk and Jason Terry's greatest irrational confidence shot in the history of basketball? You remember that? You know who coached that defense? It was Dwayne Casey. Like, that's the reason why he ended up getting head coaching jobs there. It's like, come on now, do your homework, respect this man's life, his opinions, his knowledge in the game. Like you just said, all these different great players. It's not just like, the guys at the end of the bench saying, oh, he gave me a chance or whatever. These are Hall of Famers, the second best player ever in basketball, talking about Coach Casey. And he also beat the second best player in NBA history because of his defense.
Yeah,
I like that. I think that's a bold, man.
Christian Wood literally wouldn't have a job if Dwayne Casey didn't give him his job, give him his opportunity with the Pistons. He literally said to Christian Wood when he was here, it's like he said, if you don't make it here, the next stop is China. Like, he literally said that to
Look,
me.
I'm gonna see if I'm gonna talk to some people. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that because that story, that Christian Wood story, is crazy. And the people who wanted him versus people who didn't, that's crazy. It's crazy. And
by the way, do you think it's a coincidence that all these teams that have Christian Wood end up moving on from him within 1 to 2 years? You think it's kind of a funny little coincidence, a pretty ha-ha little thing that's kind of a funny little thing that we could talk about?
Hey, Sean, hold on, bro. Which one of these teams that move on from him actually get
better?
Actually able to trade him for something as valuable as like the cap space to get Jeremy Grant and the draft pick to get Isaiah Stewart? Think about that. Troy Weaver is amazing, bro.
And people were saying he was an idiot at the time. And do you remember, by the way, like there was so many things about the COVID season that pissed me off. But like the biggest thing about that season that like flabbergasted me was that for like the first 20 games, we were trying to pretend that Christian Wood was a superstar. And it was like, yo, I get that he's scoring, but like, do you realize there's like two sides on a court that you have to play on, like both of them? And like, you have to actually play when the ball's not in your hands.
Yep. And you know what was interesting was I remember when they got rid of Andre Drummond for basically a bag of chips, and people were livid then. And people didn't understand, what if that was just a trade to get Troy Weaver in? Like, Troy is looking from afar like, look, I could do something with a lot of this roster. I can't do nothing with Andre Drummond. You clear him, then y'all show me you serious. Because then he got here. It's so wild that they got nothing for Andre Drummond, but they were able to trade. This blows my mind every time. Unrestricted Christian Wood. It's not like he was a restricted free agent. Do people realize that? Troy Weaver was like, wow. And then all of a sudden, he's getting assets back for a guy that is no longer Pistons, like property. I don't understand that. Steve, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's Troy Weaver's wizardry, man. Sometimes it's wild. And I it's going to be interesting because Troy Weaver doesn't generally. I haven't seen him really get busy at the trade deadline. I think when he got Marvin Bagley in season, but the Jeremy Grant deals, both of them, when he traded for him and when he traded him away, happened after the season, during draft season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this season if Bojan and Sadiq or Noel or any of these names that we're hearing coming up, if these are guys that get traded at the deadline, or if he's just like, why do I have to do that now? Think about the trades he's been able to flip when he's in the draft. And I'm going to continue to say that. I said it last year before the draft, that he was going to get something much better if he waited until the actual draft rather than taking somebody's one draft pick now. So it's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, man, bro, we went for an hour and 15.
We did. Look at that. We actually might get to bed before 2 a.m. today.
I love Carl, dog.
Mark Williams.
Hold on. He's like, my bad, guys. I'm way behind. He's starting up whole new conversations, man, from the beginning of the pod.
He's on like minute 15. He's on like a whole other part. But man, thank y'all so much for being here and for being a part of What We're Pistons Table Talk. Everyone in the community, be sure you like this video. You be sure you subscribe to the channel. Be sure you follow all of us on social media. Be sure to yell at Elon Musk and tell him to get my Twitter back. God dang it, because I'm mad.
Yeah, that's wild. Get Sean's Twitter back and get him to Detroit. Now we got two things, man. Two causes.
I mean, like, we could just get my Twitter first. Like, I feel like that would be like, that one's like super attainable. Like, we could hit that one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm comfortable. Like, I could go on a limb. Like, we could do that. Like,
this is super attainable.
Like, we just need to talk to someone at Twitter. Like, if we can get Jeffrey Twitter on the line, like, we could solve a lot of problems. But anyway, be sure you follow Kool-Aid on Twitter at Detroit Kool-Aid. Be sure you follow my guy Steve at Burke Worldwide, also at Resball. Be sure you go listen to that podcast. Be sure you go check it out because I will be on there in the next couple days. I gave Steve hell, and you got to go check that out. But anyway, y'all, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being the fourth chair on the table talk. We will catch you guys next week here on What We're Pistons. Be sure you subscribe. Also, stay tuned, baby. We got some big announcements coming soon.
Got some fun. Let's rock.
Let's rock.
I need to go on.